All right, so current recommendations for modifying mud motors. Don't modify the motor. When I bought this Thai longtail back in 2014 from SPS, they're about the only ones I recommend. Although I haven't tried the others, I have no reason to switch. Thing uses a go-kart power head, this particular model. Now, if you go to Thailand, their whole country is like a river country. You know, they have rivers like we have streets. There's rivers and streams and everywhere. They use these Thai longtails to get around. Can't pronounce the fellow's name who invented them, but what he did was found a way to mate a common engine to a propeller shaft, a long propeller shaft. And that's what makes it so affordable. It uses off-the-shelf engine power plants that you can find anywhere. In this case, a power generator engine. They race these things over there with jet ski engines. They put truck engines on these things for big open water out at sea in the oceans. I mean, you just can scale them beyond belief. But we don't have the same selection here that they have over there. And so a lot of people watch my YouTube videos on modifying these mud motors, and they see that I've modified this one and they want to do the same thing. You can't modify these engines much without paying a price. This engine is a 196cc engine from a company called Champion Power Equipment, who makes, you know, all kinds of power equipment like generators and things like that. The reality is you can only modify these engines so much before they start to just blow themselves apart. I've blown up, what, 2 engines, and this one I'm blowing head gaskets in it, and so it becomes a point to where modifying the engines is simply not worth it. The engine was designed to produce 6.5 horsepower all the time, and once you're trying to produce more power than that, you're gonna lessen the life of the engine. I have never had a bone stock engine fail. As long as I'm running it bone stock, I have 0 problems. People don't really understand that. Another thing is you have a lot of go-kart engine builders who are building these things for go-karts and mini bikes, and they think, oh yeah, you're doing something wrong or you're building it wrong, and some of them actually really think I'm mentally ill or psychotic or something, because they assume that everything that they know about building these engines for a mini bike where you're gonna, or a go-kart where you're just gonna be on a track, or a mini bike where you're going to be drag racing down an 1/8 of a mile strip for one run, they think all that automatically and in its totality applies on the water. I've said it before, water is 800 times as dense as air. There are resonance frequencies that come sort of back in the propeller back into the engine, and it creates this, you know, once you get a high enough RPM, it just creates this weird vibration. Almost everybody who's built these 212s and 196s has talked about it. Once they build them, they just vibrate beyond belief. The problem is, it's not so much a governor issue, it's the fact that the engine is unbalanced straight from the factory. The design is unbalanced. Why? Because you only have a single cylinder. You have one cylinder moving this way in and out all the time. The engine, it's just doing that at thousands of times per minute, you know? And so this idea that you're gonna somehow take an unstable, unbalanced engine by design and run twice the RPM through it and twice the power through it and not have any consequences as a result is just idiotic. What are my current recommendations? If you want to modify it, well, current recommendations is buy a bigger engine. The displacement is what makes the power, because you need the power down low because you're pushing through a medium that's 800 times as dense as air. You need power. Big honking motors, big honking power. The difficulty with this particular boat is it's just a 12-foot, 36-inch wide boat. I can't put more than about 10 horsepower on it. Well, they don't make a 10 horsepower motor to fit on this. Those of us with these smaller John boats are stuck, and what I'm currently recommending is people buy the medium kit and get the 8 horsepower Predator, which will do almost twice the work of this one in terms of the torque. A lot of people ask me about the Tillotson 212. I talked to them, and they pretty much told me the same thing. What they did was they basically did with their engine exactly what I've done with this one, which is I left the insides alone. I got an intake exhaust. I put a better, more open carburetor on it, and then I put a really good flywheel on it so I can get a stronger spark, spin up faster, and I'm still blowing head gaskets. Okay? And I think they have a better cylinder head. I think their cylinder head is a higher compression cylinder head, but which I could do that if I had this shaved down, but I'm already blowing head gaskets with totally bone stock cylinder head. So what's the point? If I were building racing engines, this is a great little engine to build for racing. But as far as a work engine where I got to get out there and you're going to be plowing through a medium 800 times as dense as air for miles and miles and miles on end at full throttle without letting up, and then I'll deploy my fishing jugs, say 30 jugs out or something, and then by the time I get the jugs out, it's time to go back and start running the jugs and replacing the jugs. So the engine is running constantly, full throttle, 8, 10, 12 miles. Then it's going to be idle, and then it's going to be a sort of stop and go, so idle to deploy my jugs, and then full throttle to get to my jugs once one has a bite, and then back to idle to haul the fish in, regathering the jugs up, putting them back out. The engine's just constantly running, and then at the end of the day, you're hauling all the way back down the river, full throttle without letting up. I want anybody who's a go-kart engine builder, this is one of the things they never do. They never go build one and put it through the paces that I've put it through. They just sit there and talk about it as if they know, right? And, you know, because they just don't want to believe that their little engine can't. I need a big engine that can, not a little engine that can't. Almost everybody on the forums over at Swamp Runner have gone to big block engines. They've gone to the Predator 420s or they've gone to the V-twins. Why? Because they can do 2 to 4 times more work. That's what we need, is the ability to do the work. So the Tillotson 212 is like a 10 horsepower engine, 12 horsepower engine, has the governor in it, all basically done everything here. The problem is it can't do the work. The thing won't be able to do the work of even the 8 horsepower Predator. It's the ability to do the work. It's the torque that you need, not power. If you just want to hot rod these motors, you'll learn these motors backward and forward if you hot rod them, and it's fun. And I think everybody probably should have a motor that they hot rod just so they can learn how to work on the motors. But let your hot rod motor be a separate motor. That it's going to be your play motor. This is not a toy. I think that's the difference. The hot rod, mini bike guys, the go-kart guys, they're building toys. They're fun machines for having fun. This is a wilderness machine that's designed to get you out and back alive. And once you start modifying all these motors for that, you're sacrificing reliability and dependability and your ability to get back alive. And that's not something people want to hear, because it's easy to walk off a go-kart track. It's easy to walk 1/8 of a mile back up to your car off of a drag strip from your mini bike. That's easy. If I'm below that dam and this thing blows up and they turn on those gates, I die. So if you want power, get a bigger motor, right? If you have a small John boat like mine, get the biggest kit that you can get and buy the smallest motor that'll fit that kit. It's a far better way to go. That's one of the reasons why I'm building the new boat, when I finally get back on it after the new moon here, is so I can eventually upgrade to a bigger motor. If you have a longer boat or a wider boat, just get the biggest motor that just get more displacement. Or live with going slow. And even idling with this motor is like 2 or 3 times faster than paddling. Okay, so I really kind of hate it that they got rid of the 2-stroke type motors, because here's the thing. In order to really get this motor needed, I need about 10 to 15 horsepower. A Predator 420 is the perfect motor for what I'm doing. I just don't have a boat that can handle an engine that heavy. They would sink the boat, right? And I would violate the Coast Guard recommendations, which you'll get a ticket. There's only a couple of ways to get more power. That's more RPM, more efficiency inside the engine with lighter components, or just cram more air and fuel inside the combustion chamber. And did I say more combustion? Yeah, more combustion, so bigger bang. The most reliable way to do that is just to put a bigger engine. Bigger engine has a bigger combustion chamber, therefore it can burn more fuel mixture. That's where the power comes from. A little engine like this, your only option to make serious power is to make it spin faster. And so if you take a 3600 RPM engine and make it spin twice the RPM, which is like what, 7,200 or something or whatever, and it's an unbalanced engine, it ain't gonna last. It's just gonna blow itself apart. People don't believe that. They don't like that. What I would love is if this engine had 2 cylinders, even at the same displacement, it would do the work. It'd get you the power that you need. Why? Because you have twice as many power strokes happening. Even a single cylinder, even a 2-stroke engine, because it's 2-stroke instead of 4-stroke, there's twice as many power strokes in the same time, right? So I don't have to spin 7,000 RPM. You just spin 3,600 RPM, and you got 2 power strokes going on. Or, you know, if you had 2 cylinders, you'd have 2 power strokes, right? Or if you had a single cylinder that was 2-stroke, you'd have twice as many power strokes. The only reliable engine is bone stock or intake, exhaust, and a carburetor rejet. Anything more than that, you will lessen the life of the engine. You can't beat physics. And people don't want to hear that.